There are over 100 playable characters in the Twisted Metal franchise. Some are very, very strong. Others are completely worthless. After sifting through the dump and a lot of debating, trial and error from previous experiences with Twisted Metal, we are going to look at the top 10 worst playable characters this series has to offer. At the number 10 spot, I gave it to Grasshopper, the only character in Twisted Metal 2 that I would say is completely worthless. Even Hammerhead has his use somewhere in the game. Twister is used for speedrunning, so there's an aura there, but when it comes to Grasshopper, I just don't see it. You are required to use your shield for your special to get any value. If you attempt using it without a shield, you're most likely going to off yourself or take plentiful amounts of damage because of it. When you compare this to Twister, sure, she needs to deal with the same thing, but your damage potential is way higher than Grasshopper's ever will be. That's why she's used for speedrunning. You can't grab people with Grasshopper and bring them onto an incline to abuse the damage increase bug with remote bombs. You're just putting yourself into a terrible position 99% of the time. It can of course be satisfying to fly across the map and kill an opponent, but sadly, that does not equal good. At least she controls nicely, but that's the only thing Grasshopper has going for her. Weaker armor in a special like this is somehow still better than the rest of the characters we are going to talk about, which is where Twisted Metal 3 Sweet Tooth comes into play. Look, this character is a mess in almost every entry. Twisted Metal 1, 2, 4, Black. Sweet Tooth is a powerful motherfucker. So you'd think the mascot of the franchise gets special treatment until you see the true megamind we have behind this wheel here. This character sucks, outside of having decent armor, of course, but when you look at the rest of this character, it all starts to make sense. First off, the special's blast radius is misleading. If you do not get very close with the projectile, the damage you deal is pitiful. Even when you do connect, it's not great unless your opponent is a weaker armored foe. I wouldn't say this is the worst aspect though. Of course, as we all know, Twisted Metal 3 can have wonky physics at times. You really need to knuckle down and try learning what you're dealing with here. Contrary to the popular belief of it being impossible to control by fanboys of other specific entries living in an echo chamber, Sweet Tooth is the unfortunate character where these people actually are correct. I'm not sure if it's the shape or what, but out of all the time I've played Twisted Metal 3, he's practically impossible to control. Getting hit by anything has a very high chance of flipping you over. If you turn, you breathe, literally anything, you're going to fall on your face. I genuinely believe it is the shape of the truck. I'm not sure what else it could be. Creating this very frustrating, almost unplayable gameplay loop. Playing this character on Egypt is like putting your testes into a blender. Please do not reproduce this. I have nothing else to say. Number 8 is good old Cousin Eddie. When it comes to Machine Gun Upgrade, the video game, I have a genuinely hard time ranking anyone because, you know, just get the Machine Gun Upgrade and everyone will be the best character in the game. But when it comes to Edward, we get these white missiles, which are terrible, and we lose the ability to acquire the greatest weapon in the whole series, which is obviously a massive issue. 2, the character selection screen fucking lies to us. You see that full armor right there? Anyone who's ever played this game will immediately tell you that is a lie, because it is. I'm not sure if they made a mistake or what, but your armor is atrocious for a boss character. It's obviously not ATV bad, nothing is. Even with the armor upgrades, you'll be shocked with how fast you can get chipped away. You don't really feel like a boss, just an uninspired version of Darkseid and Minion put together from Twisted Metal Black. Your ramming special sometimes doesn't even hurt people, overall having inconsistent damage values. Even though it says 25, sometimes it will do 5 or none at all. At least the upgrade is alright, it's just nothing to write home about. I hate this character and I'd rather wipe with a piece of sandpaper than ever play as him again. At number 7, we have Brimstone from Twisted Metal Black. This is a computer game that is relatively balanced when it comes to the characters, probably the best aspect of Black, honestly. Aside from this one man here, I genuinely struggled to find a time where using Brimstone would be viable, or most importantly, fun. You're stuck with lower armor and a special weapon that is atrociously bad. For some reason, when you shoot the carcass or living person, whoever is punctured on the front of your automobile, it doesn't always want to attach to our enemies. You'd figure since the damage is disgusting, there would be exceptional tracking to compensate this. Apparently not. I think if the connection was a lot more consistent or lenient, Brimstone would be a better character, but sadly we are stuck with this sad excuse of an automobile. This is the only car in black I'd actually put in a tier of its own at the bottom. Number 6 is the worst Axel Twisted Metal has ever seen. Unfortunately, Small Brawl's iteration annihilated this hood classic character. Axel's special was changed into this strange missile into seizure maneuver. When you press the fire button, you shoot out a very weak missile that has bad tracking. If that first missile hits, you will spin around shooting a volley of missiles that do shit all for damage. If that first missile misses, you are stuck spinning around and shooting missiles at nothing, being open for attack, making this one of the worst special weapons in the franchise. Honestly, the punishment doesn't fit the bill at all since you are actually stuck without being able to do anything. Your strongest stat is handling, which isn't really that amazing. Like, sure, I can turn better, but is that really good to have a trade-off of weak armor? No. Is that trade-off worth having a horrible special weapon? Not at all. This character confuses me, and I hate it. Which may have you wondering, how could any characters get worse than this? But don't worry, they do.
Either subscribe, donate, or get the fuck out.
Out of all the Twisted Metal Small Brawl characters, Warthog is the worst, undoubtedly. Warthog has the classic red, white, and blue patriotic missiles that only tickle the opponent. Like, seriously, the damage you deal is pathetic to most enemies. To get a semblance of the output Warthog is known for, you're required to save a bunch of specials and unload them all into one opponent. An even more damning factor is how you cannot use this at close range unless you want all your missiles to go completely around the opponent. The tracking is awful, so shooting it from a further range is the only way to go here. You also have the lowest armor in the entire game, right next to mine, so you're stuck here with bad armor and a bad special weapon, just a classic situation. We actually do have a reasoning for this though. Judging by the design, it's quite apparent this was not originally Warthog, where Dave Goodrich, who worked on this game, confirmed it was originally Grasshopper and then they switched it to Warthog at the last minute. And that right there is how you credit a person's name that you can find in the credits of the game you're talking about, instead of calling him a supposed developer. Only if some people could learn that. But with that said, it doesn't defeat the fact Warthog still sucks in this game. I'm sure if there was more time, he would have been better. There just wasn't, so he is stuck in whatever world we call this one. ATV is going to be at the number 4 spot and not the number 1. May be shocking to some, but there are actually ways to make ATV a serviceable character. Not good, nowhere even close to it, just decent. The basic ATV when you start the tournament is garbage. No upgrades, you got a special that does absolutely nothing, some weird little shotgun thing. I have no idea what this is. Armor that is so pitiful it could be worse than the Crimson Fury car in Twisted Metal 4. I believe it's only 2 power missiles to die here. If not, it's very close to it. But if you can survive the gauntlet of playing the game as this character, you're able to get more armor, which helps. Your special weapon becomes a stick of dynamite, which does a serviceable amount of damage, feeling more like an actual character instead of a joke. Obviously, getting more armor doesn't help that much in the long run since it's still much lower than every other character in this game. You unfortunately still need to play through the tournament like an abused housewife. People can still sniff your exhaust and you'll die. Just comparatively to without upgrades, you'll be a bit better. Even still, ATV is the worst character in the Machine Gun Upgrade, the video game, and one of the worst characters in this entire series. We are at number 3, and this is the really, really bad territory where Mr. Grimm from Twisted Metal 3 comes in. Skeletor is a classic character. We know him. We love him. Sadly, a poorly written bio and character art doesn't make a game or character fun. Mr. Grimm is completely worthless, like seriously. His design is a glass cannon, very weak defense with a powerful offense. For some reason, his offense became bad in Twisted Metal 3, while his armor was still bad, creating a ball of nothing. This special barely does more damage than a power missile. Playing on hard mode, even normal mode, you'll die almost instantly because your armor sucks, where the player is provided with nothing. The situation gets even worse when you take in the fact Twisted Metal 3 does not have a shield, so you can't even stop the madness. You're just stuck taking it up the ass, and I'm not sure if this was a lack of time, an oversight, or what. I don't understand it. I don't get this character. I played through the game on hard mode recently with Mr. Grimm, and all I can say is that it was not fun, not even remotely close to it. At number 2, we have Microblast driving his little wind-up automobile, seen as the worst character in the whole series to some, which yes, he is a worthless character for the most part. His special weapon is awful. Being forced to wait a ton for your special weapons to regenerate just to output the damage one could consider close to a normal special. Your armor is terrible. Obviously, Microblast can get killed in seconds. But the one thing for me to not put him at number 1 is how this character's size actually comes into play on occasion. With the way Twisted Metal 4's tracking works, that being not the greatest, occasionally missiles, freezes, what have you, will go over and around you enough for that to be a positive. I've had moments where the enemies try their hardest to chase me down with their arsenal, but they can't pull it off since Microblast is too small. It's not the biggest positive in the world. At the end of the day, though, we're talking about the worst characters in the entire series, and he sucks more than anyone else so far. This is just the reasoning I had to not put him at number 1. Both of them are interchangeable, though, since both number 1 and number 2 are complete fucking garbage. To me, the worst character in this entire series is Captain Grimm from Twisted Metal 4. This is essentially Mr. Grimm from Twisted Metal 3, but much worse. At least there, your special weapon was a bit stronger than a power missile. Here, you deal some of the most sad damage I've ever seen in my entire life. It looks more like a joke than anything else. You shoot your little cannonball and it barely does anything. Your armor is essentially at the same level as Microblast, which is nothing to be happy about either. At least with Microblast, you had the speed and size. Captain Grimm doesn't even have the speed in comparison, or really the size either. And for some reason, he controls quite bad as well. I'm not sure what it is about this character to make him so wonky, but it is for whatever reason. Out of every character on this list, Captain Grimm seems to have all of their negatives put together, even more so depending on who you're comparing him to. There is no fun, no positivity, no nothing with him, just a worthless empty husk. There's no reason to ever play as him unless you were playing one of the modded versions of Twisted Metal 4. Otherwise, it's a waste of time and you will not enjoy a minute of the playthrough. That is my top 10 list of the most awful characters Twisted Metal has ever seen. If you have one of your own, please make sure to leave yours in the comments below, since I'm sure this will be a divisive topic. I am ready to jump into the sea and witness it all.